Canadian Grand Prix. Like I told you, it's going to be a very, very interesting Grand Prix. I knew that because the mixed weather will bring different tire choices, different options for drivers. And so it was a race that had 5 drivers ended pulsating race, 2 safety cars, the rain, the dry, the rain, damp, the dry. Lando Norris, driver of the day. Lewis Hamilton, fastest lap. Max Verstappen winning the race. The thrills and turns, the fun, the excitement was just off the hook. This is just a general analysis of the race. There will be an individual analysis of the drivers, the teams, and how they really perform. What really happened to Ferrari in Canada? They were absolutely not on pace, and also they had engine issues, Carlos Sainz collisions, 2 DNFs for Ferrari, one due to engine issues for Charles Leclerc. They thought they fixed it, and Carlos Sainz picking up on drivers, running into them, banging into them. He has taken the role of Sergio Perez, in which Sergio Perez also did, tagging people and also tagging the wall and ending his own race also. It was very interesting. Logan Sargent, same thing, tagging the wall, spinning, enjoying the track, doing drifts, drags, and 360s to enjoy himself. At least if he's not winning, he's catching up with 360s and tagging the walls, giving medals to the walls in Canada, which makes it very interesting. And we have Lewis Hamilton's calm with Mercedes. We don't really know what is going on with Lewis Hamilton. He was unable to claim pole yesterday, and he was unable to push his teammate. After overtaking his teammate, he dropped back, but he still picked the fastest lap, and it shows something is really wrong with Lewis Hamilton. Maybe because his heart is no more with Mercedes, or Mercedes are not really treating him right, or something is going on there. We don't know yet, but we analyze all those things in subsequent videos. Sergio Perez extending his contract, and at the end of the day having a messy race. Since qualifying yesterday, he's had a pure messy day, and it's just a messy rub down with palm wine and tomato wick for him. That is it for Sergio Perez. We have Alex Albon, beautiful drive, but his race was ended by Carlos Sainz when he spun and decided to be a hound, getting into cutting grass and taking out Alex Albon, which really ended the race for Alex Albon. Alex Albon was not happy with him, but what do we do? The Alpine, great race, 2 points for them, but at the end of the day, there's still some bashing in, there's still some fights. We analyze that also in some other videos. The As did a very beautiful race. They had a very beautiful beginning of the race. They started on wet, the wet picked up, but the wet would not last because it was not an heavy rain. They lost time, they changed tires, and they went back to their positions outside the point. But what an intelligent strategy that didn't really work for the Haas. But kudos to the drivers, they gave it all their best. Kevin Magnussen, Nico Hülkenberg, they gave it all their best. They drove their Haas out. Zhou Guanyu and Valtteri Bottas, we don't know what is going on with Sauber. Maybe they are not putting any much investment into the team, as there's a takeover from Audi next year. A shambolic race for them, and I don't want to talk about them for now because it will be as if we're spiting them, but I think there's something wrong with that Sauber team, and we need to look at how they've been running their race. In the past 4 races since China, they've not done something great. Max Verstappen, congratulations, great race, out of a champion, 60th win for him, and that trick of wins in Canada back to back, which put him in line with Lewis Hamilton, having won 3 consecutive races and 7 races in Canada, which stands him out, and also Michael Schumacher winning 3 back-to-back races. This race is interesting. I'll quickly do a breakdown for you, but we'll do a full analysis in some other videos in which we analyze each drivers and each teams. But great start from George Russell, was able to start the race evenly and better, putting Max Verstappen behind him, and he had a good race up until Lando Norris was able to overtake Max Verstappen and also pick on George Russell, and the safety car came out caused by Logan Sargent at first. Some of the drivers were able to change their tires, but that didn't work for Lando Norris. He was able to pick himself right from the start of the race, gave a breathing space between himself and Max Verstappen. Lando Norris was able to fight back, but there was a bit of bitty race, and the tires got very, very interesting until Logan Sargent spun up and they were changing tires. At that point, Max Verstappen was already leading the race. Immediately after the change in tire, Lando Norris stayed out to lead the race, and by the time he was changing the tire, he was unable to keep up. Now, the tire strategy did not favor the McLaren like it favored them in Miami, and in which they were able to win, but here it didn't favor them. They lost places, they lost pace. Sergio Perez picking on different drivers until he picked himself out and tagged himself into the wall and destroyed his rear wings and went to the pit. Like I told you, the Ferraris had a worst race. Charles Leclerc started complaining of engine engine issues. When he changed his tire, he changed from inters to dry tires to their tires, which didn't work for him. He thought their tires would work for him, but their tires didn't work for him. Their tires were the worst tires in which he wore, and at that point they were able to do some little tricks on the engine. They thought it worked. He had to go back again, change his tires to inter, and at that point he was lapped by the race leader at the point, who was Max Verstappen, and that showed the signal of an ending race for him, in which he had to end this race. Carlos Sainz's teammate also had to end this race after slipping off and tagging Alex Albon and taking Alex Albon out. Oscar Piastri, great race. Nothing more he can do. He started 4th and ended 5th. Lewis Hamilton started 7th and ended 4th. George Russell started 4th and ended 3rd. Lando Norris started 3rd and ended 2nd, while Max Verstappen started 2nd and ended winning the race. Great race from the Aston Martin. Brilliant choice of strategy, and the drivers they knew they were not on the same pace with the Mercedes nor the McLaren, but they were able to outpace those that were in their lane and those that they are running with, which is more important. No do pass yourself. They were really around where they know they could finish the race, and they finished the race brilliantly in 6th and 7th, which was good for them. Brilliant race from Daniel Ricciardo. Started the race 6th, ended the race 8th. He did a good job on all the tires. His strategies were on point. He himself was on point, and he was able to push himself ahead of the Alpine, because that is where the competition is. The Alpine are their main rivals now, the Alpine and the Haas, so they had to stay ahead of them. The Williams team, apart from their races being ruined, great drive from Alex Albon, beautiful. He had some nasty overtakes that were like, oh, jaw dropping, but he did them. He was confident on the cars, he was confident on the tires. He had a beautiful race. That is a beautiful race from Alex Albon, except for himself being tagged out when he had nowhere to run to, when Carlos Sainz ran into him. And also, Lance Stroll did himself a good favor by showing the team that this is their home race and they have to perform, and he performed well. He was awake today, he was on board today, supporting his teammate Fernando Alonso, that also drove a brilliant race today, and in the end they collected some valuable points on board. And what is the direction or the trajectory of the development going with Red Bull? They said they didn't really lose back, in which we know that they've lost back. They're trying to cover up, but let's see the next race is coming in 2 weeks time. That is the 3-race header in Spain, Austria and Silverstone, and see how they will perform. We know Austria has been their own track, but the race in Spain will determine what will happen. I think Ferrari will be able to look at their data and know what went wrong with their engine, because the new issue they said they're having, and also what went wrong for them this weekend. The Ferraris were not in the race this weekend. It was a worst race for them, one of their worst races I think they would have ever had. Lewis Hamilton said this race was his worst race he has ever driven in his life, and we hope he can come back from it, though there will be a comprehensive analysis on himself and his teammate and also Mercedes differently. But we are looking at the Red Bull and where we see them coming, and how this competition has become stiffer and very interesting, so we can know how this season is going to pan out. But the Constructors' Championship might look very close, but the Drivers' Championship is still looking in the way of Max Verstappen, except Ferrari. Their recent woes around, we know the Red Bull have been the benchmark, but let's see what the Ferrari can do to research themselves, to bring themselves back into play and try and fight back, because Max Verstappen have doubled his lead over Charles Leclerc in this race, which makes him more stiffer and much more troublesome for Charles Leclerc to quickly come back. So what do we expect in the next race? We expect Mercedes to still bring some few beats that might draw them closer, and every point the Mercedes team are eking away from those ahead of them is bringing them closer to becoming a top team and the 4th team fighting for huge points this season. And I think Mercedes claiming podiums today might also mean very soon they might also be getting closer to winning races. But still, like I said, it's not certainly sure for Mercedes winning races this season. When we have McLaren doing very well, we have Red Bull still holding forth. Yeah, they had some issues today with their suspension. The stiff suspension still affects them, but Max Verstappen driving beautifully really gave them everything they need to have to hold on to position and to hold on to pace, so they don't lose back to back like what happened to them in Monaco. If they had qualified outside top 3 or top 4 yesterday, might have been a worse race for them, but qualifying second made it an easy race for them already against a Mercedes team that is very, very inconsistent. And let us see how this next few races pans out. Like I said, it's going to be bananas. It's going to be very interesting, and I expect Ferrari to be back in Spain. I expect McLaren to perform well in Spain and even perform better than they've done, because they've really upgraded the car, and I expect the upgrades Mercedes are bringing to work well for them. Let's see how they analyze the new front suspension they've worked on and the front wings, possibly bring some few bits to the floor of the car, and if if they can change some few bits at the rear, that would work well for them in Spain. But up until the next video, the next podcast, I love you guys. Bye. Chew.